Hi you guys, this video is answer key for your mid-module check. So as you go through your test, see if you can figure out what you did wrong. Remember that these are topics that you are going to need to be proficient in before the end of this quarter. Okay, so the first one is simplify each fraction. Okay, so when you simplify a fraction, the way that you do that is you take the numerator and you take the denominator and you find the greatest common factor between those two. Now, factors are numbers that multiply together to get to those two numbers. Sorry about my phone ringing, it's after school. Okay, so numbers that multiply together to get to 5 would be 1 times 5, and those are the only factors of 5. Okay? Numbers that multiply together to get to 25 would be 1 and 25 and 5 and 5. Okay, so we can see in these two lists, there is a common factor of 5. Okay, so now what we do from there is we take the 5 over 25 and we are going to divide the top by 5 and we are going to divide the bottom by 5. So we divide the numerator and the denominator both by that greatest common factor. 5 fits into 5 one time. 5 fits into 25 5 times. So 5 25ths simplifies to 1/5. Okay, so for number 1, it should have been 1/5. Now, when we look at number 2, if we were to list all the factors of 24 and 40, so let's see, 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, I think that's all of them, and then 40, we would have 1 times 40, we would have 2 times 20, we would have 4 times 10, we would have 5 times 8, and I think that's all of the factors for 40. Okay, so as you look through this list, the biggest number that they have in common would be an 8. And when you're simplifying fractions, go ahead and make these lists. It really helps you to be able to identify what your greatest common factor is. Now from there, you are going to divide both the numerator and the denominator by 8. Okay, so this was a 24 and 40. Okay, so 24 divided by 8 is 3 because 3 times 8 is 24. And then 40 divided by 8 is 5 because 8 times 5 is 40. So this fraction of 24/40 simplifies to 3/5. Okay, let's go ahead and look at number 3. Number 3 is an improper fraction. You can see that the top number is bigger than the bottom number. Okay, so let's go ahead and list the factors of 35. 1 times 35, 5 times 7. For 20, we would have 1 times 20, we would have 2 times 10, we have 4 times 5. So we can see our greatest common factor between these two would be a 5. So now we take the 35 over 20 and we divide both the top and the bottom by 5 because that's our greatest common factor. 35 divided by 5 is 7. 20 divided by 5 is 4. Now, you could leave this as an improper fraction of 7/4, or you could say 4 fits into 7/1 with 3 left over. Okay, so 1 3/4 is the improper fraction version of, the mixed number version of the improper fraction 7/4. Okay, so these two right here are equal to each other. One's just a mixed number and one's an improper fraction. Okay, now the next one, write the percent as a decimal. So remember that if you're going to go from a percent to a decimal, you have to divide by 100. And right now, the decimal would be right here, 2 point. Okay, so if we want to divide that by 100, we're essentially going to move the decimal 2 places to the left, which means we have to fill this in with a 0. Okay, so this becomes 0.02. Now remember, I told you that a percent is always just out of 100. So another way to think about this is 2% would be 2/100. And if we look right here, this is how you would write 2/100. Okay, So 76%, the decimal would be right here. If we divide that by 100, the decimal is going to be 2 places to the left, and so that would be 0.76. Now, if you want to think about the fraction for this, 76% is actually just 76 hundredths. So again, this is how you write 76 hundredths. Okay, the next one, 300%. So right now the decimal would be right here. We have to move the decimal 2 places to the left, which gives us 3. Okay, 3.0 basically is how we would write that percent as a decimal. Now, if we were to write this as a fraction, it would be 300 over 100. 300% as a fraction would be 300 over 100, and so you guys know that 300 divided by 100 is just 3. Okay, so you could have done those either way. Now the next part, write the fraction as a decimal. Okay, so if we're going to write a fraction as a decimal, we take the top number and we divide by the bottom number. The top number goes in the box. Then we would do a decimal and then we would do a 0. 20 fits into 130 6 times. 6 times 20 is 120. 130 minus 120 is 10. Add a 0, bring a 0 down. 20 goes into 100 5 times. 5 times 20 is 100. And so 13 twentieths as a decimal is 0.65 or 65 hundredths. Okay, the next one, 3/8. So we're going to take 3. We're going to divide it by 8. We do our decimal, 0. 8 goes into 30 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24. 30 minus 24 is 6. Add a 0, bring a 0 down. 8 goes into 60 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. 60 minus 56 is 4. Add a 0, bring a 0 down. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. Voila! 3/8 as a decimal is 0.375. Okay, the last one, 21/40. So we take the 21, we divide by 40. We would add a decimal and a 0. 40 goes into 210 5 times. 5 times 40 is 200. 210 minus 200 is 10. Add a 0, bring a 0 down. 40 goes into 100 twice. 2 times 40 is 80. We're going to add one more 0, bring a 0 down. 40 goes into 200 5 times. 5 times 40 is 200. Okay, voila. 21/40 as a decimal is 0.525 or 525 thousandths. Okay, now the last section, write the decimal as a fraction in simplest form. So remember, when you're going from a decimal to a fraction, you say it and then you write it. So this 4 right here is in the tenths place. So we would say 4/10. And then we just need to simplify it. The common factor, the greatest common factor between 4 and 10, let's see, 4 times 1, 2 times 2, 1 times 10, 2 times 5. So the greatest common factor would be a 2. So now we divide both the top and the bottom by 2, which gives us 2/5. Okay, the next one, 0.35. This is 35 hundredths. 3 is in the tenth spot, 5 is in the hundredth spot. So we would write it, 35 hundredths. And now we need to simplify. So if we list the factors of 35, let's see, 1 times 35 and 5 times 7. And then the factors of 100, let's see, 1 and 100, 2 and 50, 4 and 25, and then 5 and 20. So now we divide both the top and bottom by 5. Now, if a number ends in a 5 or 0, you can always divide that number by a 5. Okay, so 35 divided by 5 is 7. 100 divided by 5 is 20. 7/20. Okay, now the last one, 0.8, this 8 is in the tenth spot, so we would say 8 tenths. And then the greatest common factor between these two would be a 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, so hopefully you were able to see what you did wrong on your quiz. And like I said, if you missed any of these topics, I am happy to help you before school, or there's a math tutor after school, or you can come in during din time. Just please let me help you with knowing how to do each of these so you can pass it off on your grade.